no secret that Americans are suffering right now with inflation and gas prices, the economic malaise, and of course the rise in violent crime. And we want to do something about it. We need this midterm election 1 month from tomorrow to go the Republicans' way, so at the very least we can stop the hemorrhaging. So somewhere on Capitol Hill we can actually say an emphatic no to the executive branch led by President Joe Biden. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time between now and Election Day focusing on some of those House seats that are going to be the game changers for this new Republican majority. We begin in the Golden State of California, the 3rd Congressional District. Assemblyman Kevin Kiley is running as the Republican nominee in a brand new redrawn district, Assemblyman Kiley. So thank you for joining us. I know you're busy. You want to get out there and start knocking on doors. So thanks for giving us some time here.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Larry.
Well, let's first talk about the politics of it and the race before we get into the issues. This, as I said, is a newly drawn race, so you're not running against an incumbent, right? It's currently, though, the 3rd is represented by a Democrat?
It's represented by both. We have, actually, this district was formed out of 5 pre-existing districts. And so there's some parts of it that have a Democrat now, some parts that have a Republican. Overall, it's a fairly close district. It favors Republicans by just a few percentage points.
So let's quickly tell people how they can support your cause there. What is the website so they can maybe help you push that district over the top? Because when we can win a district in California, the Republicans, that makes a huge difference nationally, I think.
No, absolutely. So it's just electkevinkiley.com. I'm Kevin Kiley, K-I-L-E-Y, electkevinkiley.com. And yes, this is absolutely one of the really handful of districts that could determine whether we take the speaker's gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hands for good and put the brakes on this train wreck of an administration from Joe Biden.
Well, and you know better than anyone, Kevin Kiley, exactly how dangerous these Democrat policies are, because you're seeing one-party rule in California for the most part. I mean, I know you do your best in Sacramento, but it's dominated by Democrats. It's dominated by Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom Democrats. Give us a little bit of a sketch about what you're dealing with in the Golden State right now, because those policies, if the Democrats had their way, they'd be federally implemented in Washington.
Well, that's exactly right. And the Golden State is unfortunately increasingly less golden. And this is exactly what they're trying to do in Washington. This is by design. Gavin Newsom has said it himself. He said California is, quote, a model for the nation. This is his whole shtick, actually, as he apparently, tests the waters for 2024, is we need to turn the entire country into California. And so what has become of California? Just under his governorship, we've suddenly experienced a net population loss for the first time in our 172-year history. More people are leaving our state than are coming, and it's because we lead the nation in all the wrong ways, in poverty and homelessness, in the achievement gaps in our schools. We have soaring crime. We've been a sanctuary state. We have just decaying infrastructure, despite the highest taxes, the most regulations of any state in the country. And so this is exactly what's starting to happen now to our country under Joe Biden. And it's going to continue what's going to continue to happen if this upcoming midterm election doesn't affect a major course correction for our country.
Well, and you're so right about Newsom basically running for president right now. I mean, he's running more ads in Florida than he is in California. That tells you about the arrogance of one-party rule, number one, but also where he plans to take the nation should he run in 24. I think he is running. In fact, he's grandstanding so much that, is it true that he's trying to call an emergency session of the state assembly back into Sacramento to deal with what would only be described as an international issue way outside of his purview, having to do with oil companies and gas companies?
Well, yes, and you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, I've been pushing to suspend the gas tax all year. I authored a bill to do so in January. I gave the supermajority several opportunities to vote on it. They voted against it, and Newsom refused to support it, claiming that somehow cutting the gas tax would just, be a windfall for oil companies, even though states like New York and Connecticut, other blue states, did precisely that, and their consumers saw immediate savings. And so as prices have continued to go up to just outrageous levels, California is about $2.50 above the rest of the country. The pressure has continued to grow. And so Newsom has just decided to call this special session of the legislature and decided the solution for rising gas prices is another new tax that he's going to impose on gas suppliers. which will most certainly be passed on to consumers. Interestingly enough, he's calling this special session for after the election. What he's
Aha.
doing before the election is sending out, quote, inflation relief checks that are basically being paper clipped to people's ballots. They're arriving on, pretty much the same day.
Wow, that's third world stuff, Kevin Kiley. That's, but we should expect no less right now. I keep saying one party rule, one party rule. This is the corruption and arrogance that one party rule gets you. Let's also talk about the crime. I mean, we see these harrowing videos out of San Francisco and Los Angeles, although it's in the suburban areas as well, not just in the major urban centers in California, where you're seeing flash mobs go into these drugstores and convenience stores and just take things off of the shelf. Security guards don't do anything about it. The local police don't do anything about it. This has now become the norm in California. What's at the root of that?
Oh, it's absolutely the norm. And the root of it is that we've had a series of laws that have liberalized and basically legalized a bunch of different types of crimes, including retail theft. And so you've seen this absolute epidemic of it. I mean, if you go to Los Angeles now, the police there tell you, don't wear jewelry in public. You'll make yourself a target. Starbucks has closed down 5 of its locations in LA because of the crime, because of the homelessness. In Sacramento, Starbucks just closed a location because there was an open air drug market right outside. Places like Walgreens have shut down all of their stores in San Francisco. It has just gotten absolutely out of control, so much so that in San Francisco, which is like the most liberal city in the entire country, they just recalled their Soros-backed district attorney by an overwhelming margin. So again, if this is what the rest of the country wants, then sure, follow the California model. But I don't think that's where people in this country want to go.
Yeah, and listen, you were a clarion voice against the emergency measures that Gavin Newsom seized for himself during COVID-19. In fact, does he still have those powers in California now?
He does. We're still in a state of emergency, Larry.
Unbelievable. And this is why I'm so eager to have your voice in Washington, D.C. I mean, frankly, my heart belongs to California. A couple of my kids still live there. I spent my formative years in California. I want you to fix the Golden State, but we could use your voice in Washington, D.C. because we can't let COVID-19 ever happen again. And I want you to talk about that a little bit, because your message at the time against Gavin Newsom as he was destroying that state's economy, all under the guise of science and health, you were leading, as similar to Governor DeSantis in Florida, you were leading every conversation with our rights, our freedom, our liberties as individuals. It's like that was just forgotten by the Democrats in power.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's putting it too kindly. It wasn't just forgotten. They saw an opportunity and they seized it. Gavin Newsom said it himself on April 1st of 2020. So this is a few weeks in to the state of emergency. Newsom says that he saw COVID as, quote, an opportunity for a new progressive era. He said it was, quote, an opportunity to reshape the way we do business and how we govern. That's what he said 3 weeks into this whole thing, when a lot of people were still very afraid and we didn't really know what we were dealing with.
Wow.
And then he proceeded to have the single most extreme, most draconian COVID response in the country, with the highest level of government coercion and control every step of the way, when it came to business shutdowns, school shutdowns, church shutdowns, when it came to mask mandates, vaccine passports, each and every step of the way. California was the absolute worst, including with the schools. We were the last in the entire country to get our kids back to school. And we're seeing the just, enormous ramifications of that, the tragic ramifications of it in some of the test data right now. Although, in typical California fashion, they even tried to delay the release of student test results until after the election,
right,
to try to conceal the damage they'd done. And we had to push back against that and get them to release them on the proper time.
Well, and you also led the charge there. You understand how this system works. You understand how our government works. You led the charge in suing Gavin Newsom and his administration in trying to wrestle some of those powers away, and you were victorious in many occasions. So I appreciate that as well. Real fast, in our final 30 seconds, should you win this race and come to Washington, what committees would you like to sit on, and would you like to be participate in some investigative hearings?
Oh, absolutely. And being on the Judiciary Committee would be a great place for that. But that's one of the most important things you can do when you get in the majority.
It's electkevinkiley.com is the website, and that's how you can help Kevin Kiley win that race, become a new Republican from California, and send him to Washington, D.C. As I said, we're going to continue to look at races like Kevin Kiley's and many others where Republicans can prevail. In the meantime, keep it here. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.